Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video, and this one's about Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft. Are they too easy to fly? Not difficult enough? Not realistic enough? The whole inspiration for this video comes from a Discord member. Let me just sort myself out here. Discord member Rosen. He was the winner of our September Screenshot of the Month competition that we run on Discord. Go and check in the description for a link to our Discord, and anybody's free to enter that competition. PC or Xbox Microsoft Flight Simulator flyers, come and enter. Anyway, Rosen won that competition. I'll show you his screenshot on screen, his winning screenshot. And essentially, Rosen messaged me. Now let me just show you his message on screen, saying he was thinking about the competition, his prize. And he was saying, are the aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator unrealistic, too easy to fly? And this got me thinking back to my days of Flight Simulator X and X-Plane, where I was having a little bit more difficult flying the aircraft in those simulators. And then I came back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. It all depends on your settings and where you're flying as well. So in this video, I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks on how to make your flying experience that little bit more difficult, perhaps a little bit more realistic as well, just to add a little bit more difficulty for your aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Listen, this is difficult. Let's not dilly-dally. Let's get on with this video. So typically, I'll be flying, as you know, around the London area. Typically from runway 27 at London City Airport and flying around. Pretty much in any simulator I tried. Microsoft Flight Simulator, Flight Simulator X, X-Plane. If you're flying around these types of areas in something like a Cessna, it's all fairly straightforward. You've got to do something pretty drastic to crash your aircraft, like fly straight into the ground, or not have your throttle up and stall it, that type of thing. So if you're doing everything correct, it's going to be pretty difficult to crash your aircraft. It's not really a good test, regardless of your settings, to make your flights more difficult. You want to get to a more difficult area. And let's just type in Everest here. And go to Everest Base Camp. And then clear that search. Scroll out and find an airport around here. Now, I believe Parole, there we are. Parole Airport here. Parole. Let's set off from runway 33, set as departure. And for this video, I'm going to be using one of my favourite aircraft, the Cessna 172 with the G1000s, although I'm not going to be implementing the G1000 much in this video. Okay, so with that set, so let's just show you that again, just in case you want to follow this video. The runway is VQPR, Parole. Let's go fly. And there you go, the sim spawned me in on my chosen airport. So let's just go ready to fly. Just come down. Just one thing you'll notice here, press my B key, it seems to be pretty much working with every flight now. I don't need to correct that altimeter. But as you can see, we're way above sea level, over 7,000 feet. Just keep that in mind, the Cessna 172 doesn't behave particularly well at those kind of altitudes, which already makes our flight more difficult. Let's go to weather. I'm going to put it on live weather as well. Should be pretty clear in this part of the world, and it is. But you're going to get a lot of thermals, as you'll see. A bit of cloud, but nothing much. Let's just go now to options. Just going to press the escape button. You can do this on Xbox and PC, by the way. Get to your options, go to assistance options. And as you'll see there, I've pretty much got all my options on hard. I've set them all to hard. So aircraft systems. I've got unlimited fuel off, aircraft lights, gyro drift on. Failure and damage, crash damage enabled, stress damage enabled. Piloting, probably making your life a little bit easier in this case. You don't want assisted yoke, assisted rudder anyway, so I've got them all turned off. So essentially I've got them all set to hard, apart from user experience. That's because if I put that on hard, it turns the ATC UI panel open at start, ATC voices. I don't want them on. But it's up to you if you do. I don't want the checklist open either when I start my aircraft. So I'll just turn all them off and leave the rest on. That's why that's on custom. But the rest of them, put them all to hard if you haven't already. And you'll see this will have an effect on your experience as well. Okay. Like I said, the Cessna 172, 152 don't behave well at this kind of altitude, as you'll see. I've also got my warnings. Let me just show you that as well. General options and go to sound. I've got my warnings set to 100%, engines turned down. That's because I've been doing ADF NDB flying and I want to hear the Morse code, but it's useful in these situations as well. Have your warnings turned up and your aircraft engines down, because it will warn you when you're about to stall, and this may happen, hopefully not, in this flight. But I'm going to put my flaps. I need at least flaps 1 here, stage 1 flaps, because as you'll see, take off the parking brake and full throttle here, everything behaves a little bit more sluggish. Now you can see I'm getting some torque and some pulling to the left there. That's pretty normal to get pulled to the left or right when you're taking off in an aircraft such as this. So I'm just using my Velocity 1 rudder triggers there to keep myself central, or on the center line. By now, somewhere like London City, we'll be at takeoff speed. You can see the aircraft's being very sluggish here. We're just getting now up to what, 30 nautical miles? Or sorry, 30 knots rather. So I'm going to wait to the very last moment. Thankfully it's a nice long runway. To the very last moment before we pull up and take off, so using all the runway available to me. It's already difficult. There we go. We've got takeoff speed now, so I'm going to take off right at the end of the runway. Lift my flaps up, and I'm already having to fight with the aircraft to keep it above those trees coming up. See if any warnings kick in, because it's not going to like what I'm doing already. There you go. Don't sink. Sorry, warning me. I should have. I'm not careful here. I'll get a stall warning. So I'm just going to trim out more for level flight. I'm going to make sure my flaps are up. Keep my throttle full in. Come to my left here. Otherwise I'll be heading into mounting. So already in an area such as this. It's warning me again. Area such as this, with live weather on and all those thermals blowing me around, hand flying this of course, I'm having difficulty just maintaining an altitude above ground level here. Like I said, I can't really climb. As you can see, my speed is not picking up simply because of the altitude of where we're at. Simply enough, not enough lift and speed to keep a constant climb, so I'm pretty much having to remain at level flight there, trimming out for level flight at full throttle, just not really gaining any speed. Let's try and gain a little bit more speed. This should ease after a while, but already it's a far different experience than flying in somewhere like London area or a city area, you're going to find that your aircraft behaves very differently. It'll be very easy to crash. Now, there's no close by airports to our current location. Let me just bring up my VFR map here. Typically in an aircraft you'll have some kind of GPS, either a tablet or something, or maps. I mean, we got the G1000s down there, so we do have a map to our right, but the VFR map will be handy because I want to head back towards our departure airport, as there's no other airport close by. Already, this is a challenge. It's a challenge and a half, in fact. Constantly trimming here just to ensure that I'm getting... There you go, I'm picking up a little bit more speed there now, but I'm still in flap speed there. So I can even engage my flaps here without stressing the aircraft out too much. And that's full throttle and near level flight. So let's just get towards this area down here, and then we'll do a 180 and come back towards the airport. And of course, if you want to, you can fly on from here. Try something like the Grand Caravan around here with those settings as well. A little bit easy, a little bit more horsepower, but you're still going to be struggling with the aircraft, and you've got to be careful not to slow down too much, otherwise you will be stalling the aircraft. It's not happened to me in this video, but give this a go yourself, and you may find that you'll be crashing. Certainly struggling. Maybe even having to restart your flight once or twice when you first try this. There we go. Quick 180. That will do. How's my aircraft doing? Good. Now it's picking up a little bit more speed. Don't want to go too high here, because our airport would just be ahead. Still having to very much fight the aircraft. The wind's blowing me to the right there. This is coming from my left on my current position. As you know, the airport should be just in that valley down there. Just out of flap speed there. Even though I've still got my throttle pretty much in full there. Not quite, I've actually just taken it back a little bit there as I was gaining a little bit more speed. And I want to keep it around this speed because that airport's not far away. As you can see, a bit of a challenge. Well worth trying in an area such as this. I do like flying around these sort of mountainous areas in an aircraft such like the Cessna 172. You can see there, it's actually taken me towards the ground somewhat. So I'm just having to be aware of all these thermals around me. Can maintain now that current altitude. Just being aware of my speed, just keeping an eye on it. And there you go. Do mention below what settings, by the way, have you got your assistance settings on? What settings do you fly with? And don't be ashamed. I mean, typically I will have points of interest on for airports, especially if I'm flying around unfamiliar areas. For this video, I've turned it off just to make life more difficult. But in fact, I'm just taking off and landing on the same runway anyway, or the same runway, just in a different direction. But typically I'll have them turned on. The other options are pretty much what you saw before. I'll have everything else turned off. Don't have any assistance whatsoever. Don't really like the default ATC, so I typically have that turned off as well. Share down in the comments below, what settings do you normally have? Okay, so let's just take a recce off this area. Runway is not far away from us. Let's come down to, well, let's engage stage 1 flaps. I can get rid of that map now. Bit of lift there from the flaps, and there's the runway right in front of us. Start to come down on my speed a little bit. You don't want to be doing coming down on your throttle too much in an area like this. There we go. It's going to be a challenge landing on this runway with all this wind around me here, but it should be okay. I should be able to line up. Trees ahead of me there, not great right at the beginning of that runway. Although you're probably taking off in this direction normally from this runway, I would expect. And there we go. And we can bring it down. Nice long runway. Little bit of a bounce there, but nothing too drastic. And bring her to a full stop. In fact, I could have taken that turning off, but I can take this next turning. Coming up just here. There we go. So there you go. That's how to make your flights a little bit more difficult. There is another option as well. Let me take you to that now. Okay, so another option to make your flights more difficult is to choose a more difficult aircraft to fly. In this case, I'm flying the Spitfire. These are available both on the Xbox and PC. This is the Aeroplane Heavens version, Spitfire version. I'll link the video in the top right, my original review of this. But there's a Flying Iron Spitfire as well. Either version are quite tricky to fly with the same settings and assistant options. Everything pretty much on hard. Let's go full throttle here and just go for a fly around. Do I have my canopy closed? I do indeed. Actually, you meant to keep it open. Oh, yeah, Spitfire forgot. Pretty tricky to taxi along here. Really got to keep an eye on it. I almost went right off the runway there, so already finding things a little bit more tricky. Just try and keep myself on the centre line there. It's enough speed to take off. And we can go landing gear up as well. There we go. And just go for a quick fly around. Obviously, once it's up in the air, the Spitfire, it's not overly difficult to fly. Close my canopy now. Quick fly around, not overly difficult. I find once you're up in the air, it's quite acrobatic and actually lovely to fly. Oh, look at that, so evocative, isn't it? Absolutely love the Spitfire. Oh, there we go. Lovely area. I've got Orbix North installed here as well. What I'll do though, let's just go for a quick fly straight ahead, turn back 180, land back at Manchester EGCC Airport there. Don't want to come too high here. So let me know let me know and let others know down in the comments below what add-on aircraft or other default aircraft are you flying or do you like to fly that's a little bit more tricky and difficult to fly to the sort of standard Cessnas 152 and 182 etc. What other aircraft do you like to fly that is a little bit more difficult? Makes your flying experience that little bit more difficult. Let us know down in the comments below. There we go. Let's just come back towards EGCC there. Now, let me just trim down rather. Oh, you know, all that first runway. So with the Spitfire, I tend to fly, when I'm coming in for an approach, I'll tend to throttle back a little bit. Put my flaps down as well, and that will lose my altitude and sort of decrease my speed quite rapidly. In fact, I can probably keep it in that configuration there as it's quite nice. Yep, that should be okay. Let me just release my flaps there. Take my flaps off because I was coming down a little bit too quickly there for my liking. I'm not quite keen on my altitude there, but should be okay. There we go, engage my flaps again there as the runway's just ahead, and I do want to now come down in speed and altitude. Oh, not too much though. with flaps down in this particular Spitfire, it does like to really bring you down a little bit too violently. Or drastically. There we go. That should do. You know what? I've not got my gear down. Ugh, that would have been disaster. That would have been a difficult landing. Never mind. We're there now. Oh, oh, bit of a FUD there. Anyway, we're down. I do have all the assistant options set to hard, so if I've damaged my Spitfire there, it will show if I try to take this back up again. But I'm just gonna brake there. Pop outside. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Give those settings a try if you haven't and you're finding Flight Sim a little bit too easy. Make life more difficult for yourself. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. And I'll see you soon.